It was supposed to be just another drive home, a quiet evening, the kind where you just want to roll down the windows and let the breeze clear your mind. But tonight was anything but ordinary. What would you do if someone you trusted, someone you thought should protect you, turned on you in the most unexpected way? That's exactly what happened to Leona Hayes. In the moment the truth came out, it left everyone in complete shock, including the man at the center of it all. Leona was on her way home from a late meeting, her mind focused on her upcoming weekend plans with her family. She'd just closed a deal for her nonprofit, which helped underserved communities gain access to education. As she turned onto her quiet street, she noticed flashing red and blue lights in her rearview mirror. Confused, she slowed down and pulled over. The officer stepped out of his car. He was tall, with an air of authority that could make anyone feel uneasy. Without waiting for Leona to say a word, he rapped on her window. "License and registration," he barked. Leona, always calm under pressure, handed over her documents. "Is there a problem, officer?" she asked politely. The officer glared at her. "Step out of the car," he ordered. Leona blinked, taken aback. "May I ask why?" "Don't argue, just do it," he snapped. Leona complied, stepping out slowly. The officer immediately began accusing her of running a stop sign, a claim she knew wasn't true. But what started as a minor traffic stop quickly escalated. The officer's tone became more aggressive, his words more cutting. He questioned why she was in the neighborhood, implying she didn't belong there. Leona calmly responded, "Officer, this is my neighborhood. I live just down the street." But her words seemed to fall on deaf ears. Before she knew it, the officer was pulling out his handcuffs, accusing her of resisting. "I'm not resisting," Leona said, her voice steady but firm. That's when it happened. The officer said something that would change everything. "People like you think they can do whatever they want," he muttered under his breath. Leona froze. Those words stung. But instead of reacting in anger, she looked him straight in the eye and said something that stopped him in his tracks. "Officer, what's your last name?" He frowned. "Why do you need to know?" Leona took a deep breath. "Because I think we might be family." The officer's expression shifted from irritation to confusion. "What are you talking about?" Leona explained. "I've been researching my family history. My mother told me years ago about a relative who became a police officer. His name matches yours." The officer hesitated, staring at her with a mix of disbelief and uncertainty. Leona continued, "My mother's maiden name is Johnson. Your badge says Johnson. Officer, are you related to Eleanor Johnson?" The officer's face turned pale. "That's my grandmother," he said quietly. Leona nodded. "Eleanor Johnson is my grandmother's sister. That makes us cousins." The air grew heavy with realization. The man who had just humiliated her, who had judged her without cause, was her own flesh and blood. The officer's hands trembled as he lowered them. I didn't know," he began, but his voice trailed off. Leona looked at him, her voice calm but resolute. "You didn't know because you didn't take the time to see me as a person. You saw me as a threat." The officer stepped back, suddenly aware of the gravity of what had just happened. He stammered an apology, but Leona wasn't interested in excuses. "You have the power to make a difference," she said. "You can choose to treat people with respect, no matter who they are or what they look like. But tonight, you chose not to. And that's something you need to reckon with." Leona got back into her car, her composure intact, and drove the short distance home. The officer stood there, staring after her, the weight of his actions pressing down on him. In the days that followed, he reached out to her, not just to apologize, but to learn. He asked about her work, her life, and their shared family history. It wasn't an easy conversation, but it was a start. This story isn't just about one woman or one cop. It's about the power of recognition, the realization that we're all connected in ways we might not see at first glance. Leona Hayes faced injustice that night, but she turned it into an opportunity for change. And in the process, she reminded us all of a simple truth: we're more alike than we are different.